they're not asking about vaccinations, preventatives, like what's my next surgery or dental care. They're asking like, what should I be feeding my pet? And why is my cat spinning in a circle? And, how can I help keep them alive longer? And so I think it really helps us as vet professionals to start really opening up to that, okay, maybe education should be the pinnacle of medicine, because that brings them back to kind of like a starting point where we can then meet them where they are, answering the questions they want, and then in the future can build a better trust with them.
What's up, VetFolio Voice? Welcome back to another episode. This one's brought to you jointly by Chewy Health and HABRI, the Human Animal Bond Research Institute. In it, I was joined by Lindsey Braun and Dr. Tiffany Tupler, or Dr. T, as we elected to go with in this episode. They both brought such great energy to the podcast. In this episode, we talk about a conversation that I felt like I ended up having over and over again at VMX. We're talking about how to balance meeting client expectations in terms of communication and education in the context of the limitations on our time and resources as veterinary professionals. And Lindsey and Dr. T brought some hard data to help back up the discussion that we were having. I think the fact that this conversation kept coming up is really telling. This is a tightrope that so many of us are trying to balance on in practice. It's just top of mind when we're trying to manage our time in clinic. We discussed the results of the Pet Health Challenges survey and what it means to be aware of what pet owners are asking us while still maintaining something that looks like a boundary. Our conversation centered around communicating effectively, offering the best care for our patients across multiple versions of the human-animal bond, across multiple generations and lifestyles, without completely burning out. There's a lot to unpack here, so let me introduce Lindsey and Dr. T. Let's get into our talk. Dr. Tiffany Tupler is a senior veterinarian for Chewy Health. She graduated from the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine with a certificate in shelter medicine in 2012. That's right, she and I used to pass each other in the hallways, and I'm so excited to be able to work with her on this recording. Before enrolling at the University of Florida, she spent 15 plus years working as a licensed veterinary technician in specialty medicine with an interest in anesthesia and orthopedics. And as a veterinarian, she received certificates in the human-animal bond and fear-free shelters. She worked for over 10 years at various animal welfare organizations, helping to create outreach programs and access to care in underserved communities by offering spectrum of care medicine. Dr. Tupler has been with Chewy Health for 5 years, working on various projects to build and sustain community health and outreach. Lindsey Braun is the Vice President of Research and Operations for the Human Animal Bond Research Institute, or HABRI, where she oversees the HABRI Research Grant Program, which has funded more than $4 million in high-quality research projects at research universities across the globe. These research grants investigate all aspects of the health benefits of human-animal interactions for both the people and the animals involved. With her leadership and role in this field, Braun has co-authored the Research, Practice, Science, and Public Policy chapter of the Handbook on Animal-Assisted Therapy, as well as key papers on the impact of pets during the COVID-19 pandemic and exploring public policy implications of the human-animal bond.
Join more than 100,000 learners just like you. VetFolio is one of the largest providers of continuing education for the animal health community, offering more than 500 RACE-approved CE courses. Earn veterinary CE anytime, anywhere with VetFolio. Subscribe today at vetfolio.com.
I'm joined by Dr. Tiffany Tupler. Dr. T, we're going to go with. It kind of sounds like Mr. T. I'm very excited.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah,
Mr.
exactly.
T.
Mr. T. And Lindsey Braun, we're going to talk about human-animal bond. And we just turned the microphones on, but we've kind of already been cutting up here for a little while. So I'm really excited to see where this conversation goes. Thank you both for joining me.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to talk about a survey of pet owners, of pet parents about veterinary medicine, which is a huge topic of conversation right now. We're seeing a lot of evolution in the veterinary field. We're seeing cost of care concerns, all kinds of things. And so to really get the perspective of pet owners, I think, is becoming more and more important for all of us to understand each other. So starting off maybe on a positive note, what were some of the positive themes that emerged?
I can start. So one of the first things we did was ask pet owners about their bond. So HABRI developed, the organization I'm part of, Human Animal Bond Research Institute, we developed HABscore, which is a 14-statement scale asking pet owners about their bond. across 4 distinct dimensions: attachment, commitment, humanization, and integration, to just get a sense for how bonded they are. So interestingly, what we found consistently across surveys is that the bond is not a bell curve. It's very much clustered towards the top. So we have strong, stronger, and strongest categories. And then we were able to look at the rest of the responses throughout the survey through that lens, just to see if there's a relationship between the bond and the challenges experienced, and they're interested in certain solutions. The bond is stronger than ever, so really positive. The highest score you can get is a 70 because it's a 14-statement scale across 5 answers. The lowest is a 14. The average of this survey was a 60, so higher than we've ever seen. Just indicating the bond is just stronger than ever. And me, that wasn't really surprising to us. We know the bond is really strong. But what was really fascinating was we saw differences across their vet visits and their willingness to spend on their pets, and also the challenges that they face and their openness to technology, which is what we focused on in this survey.
Okay. So the bond being strong, which is huge, and then that influencing their willingness to have this collaborative care type of relationship.
Absolutely.
Tiffany, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would love to.
Dr. T?
Dr. T, that's right, in the house. Here we go. What I think is really interesting, especially when you think about like meeting pet parents, clients where they are, is that, and I think for many of us in this industry, we probably know that, is that 82% of pet parents don't even understand basic husbandry,
right?
Let alone advanced medicine. So, it really kind of puts into focus a lot of the work that we've been doing in community medicine and sheltering, where we're trying to become these guardian veterinarians, where we're really trying to push just basic education. Like, what are pet parents asking about? Well, they're not asking about vaccinations, preventatives, like what's my next surgery or dental care. They're asking like, what should I be feeding my pet? And why is my cat spinning in a circle? And, how can I help keep them alive longer? And so I think it really helps us as vet professionals to start really opening up to that. Okay, maybe education should be the pinnacle of medicine, because that brings them back to kind of like a starting point where we can then meet them where they are, answering the questions they want, and then in the future can build a better trust with them. So when we're talking about those big medical problems or those big medical issues, they're going to look at you and be like, oh man, that's some heavy stuff. But I remember when you taught me a lot of the basic stuff. So I'm already comfortable listening and understanding what you're doing because you've helped me along the way, that now you as the doctor are definitely the experts in these fields. And that isn't something that I have to worry or start to do a lot more research at home for.
Yes, that makes so much sense to say, start from the beginning. And it's funny, I think this is the 3rd time today that we've talked about education and communication being huge parts of forming bonds with our clients for the obviously their betterment and our relationship and that level of trust, which ultimately benefits our patients. And yes, when I had my mobile practice, I spent a ton of time on education. And we talked about, the different options for preventative and what vaccines we did and why and what they included. And now I've noticed, I don't have my mobile practice anymore, but I'm still lucky that they'll come see me at the hospital where I work. And now our conversations can center on the more advanced topics.
Right.
We're getting into how are we going to, keep them from developing debilitating arthritis, or, keep them a healthy weight so we don't get diabetes if it's a cat or something like that. And you're right. If you build that basic foundation, it allows you to have those more advanced conversations that really benefit the pet in the long run.
Yeah. And I also think too, to that point, because we hear it a lot, like, well, you can't have that time. Like that time, you've got other things to do. But I think it also looks at that value scale of, if you give time to vet professionals, remember, it doesn't just have to be veterinarians. This could be, a credentialed veterinary technician who has a passion and a love for nutrition or behavior, or those topics that as vets, like, we really haven't heavily leaned on because they aren't usually the sick patient appointments. But like, if we really start to lean on giving us more time, you see that long projection. Like, we've known it. Like, for those of us in the industry that have been doing this, like, we've begged for more time in rooms, but now the study actually helps us see that and actually can show, like, if you give time, you're going to see a long-term benefit in your practices and in your clientele and what they're willing to spend in the clinic as well.
And I'll add to that, like, in terms of time, like, you don't need to ask them a 14-statement questionnaire to understand their bond. It's, what do you love about Fluffy? Like, what do you do together? What are they to you? Are they like a child? That's a clear indication that they're really highly bonded.
Sure. And and kind of sussing out that relationship so that you can customize your care, because
I mean, we had a model of veterinary medicine for a long time based on the knowledge and the resources we had and the common relationships with pet owners and their pets, but that's just changed. It doesn't look the same as it did, 20 years ago. And it sounds like we need to evolve with it as we're seeing this evidence of the stronger bond and what it is that pet owners are asking for.
Absolutely.
I love that there's data behind this now.
Oh, yeah.
Now when I get behind in rooms, I'm going to be like, human-animal bond.
And I think it's important too, even when you look at different communities, even if you have these entry level or different age generations, education is still important.
Right.
So even if they identify this pet as a guardian pet or maybe a pet that does other services, like we still need to take the time to educate because you're not only building the bond with that pet parent, you're also building it with their family, right? That next generation may start saying, hi, I remember when my dad took my dog to the vet for vaccines. Dr. Cass, I really want to talk a little bit more when you're talking about neutering and maybe preventatives. Like you mentioned something with heartworms or something, I can't remember. Can you talk more about it? So I think it also empowers the next generation to also start learning more in advance. So like, don't just limit it to those clients that come in that ask for it, but like really start to think about every opportunity is a moment to touch someone with some form of education. And just like from a public health perspective, this can help them too in their own journey, right? In their own human healthcare journey, their medical journey. It allows them to see that doctors and their staff are here to help and we're here to educate. You don't have to be scared of us. We're willing to meet you where you are. We're willing to help you at any aspect in any part of your career or your life and journey with your pet.
Yeah, it's part of our education and what we work so hard to do is to have the resources and the knowledge to be able to meet people where they are. So, so we can not formulate one size fits all plans and instead have the ability to customize that based off of data and knowledge. So this is really encouraging. I am curious, pain points that emerged. What were some of the not as positive points that were found in the survey?
So we asked across a number of different, pet related challenges, what was most challenging. What came up as number one across the board was the emotional toll of leaving a pet behind. So I think it speaks to the strength of the bond and not to be a broken record. I think we've all heard this so many times, but ever since the pandemic where we were spending so much time with our pets, everyone really enjoyed that and didn't want that to change. And it's changed, it's evolved. And so how can we, this is really enlightening in terms of how can we try and help pet owners feel connected to their pets throughout the course of the day when they're not home. This was across, regardless of income, generation, household, pet type. Affordability was number two, and that was felt more across, younger pet owners, people with lower means, people with multiple pets, kind of intuitive. And 82% of respondents said they struggled with understanding their pet's healthcare needs. So, and that's really gleans a lot, right? We can learn a lot from this. They struggle with understanding, maybe when it's time to go to the vet. But, we can try to help them by providing them with all these resources. What can we do while they're not at the vet to support them and to support that bond? Because clearly it plays such a role in the way they see their relationship in their world. So,
yeah, I think it speaks to how much there is to talk about in these touch points that we get with clients. And this is another point I feel is coming up time and time again from multiple different perspectives is time. And we need to find ways to make sure that we're connecting with clients, with pet owners outside of that 30-minute annual exam, because it's just, we know so much. We have so many resources now, and we can deep dive into so many different areas of pet health, but we can't do it in a 30-minute exam once a year.
Definitely not. And I think the other thing too, with pets being left alone, it's one of the biggest reasons I got into behavior. And not just behavior for anxious animals or phobic animals or on that board certification level, but really just helping pet parents understand what animals are going through, understanding their body language, right? Teaching very simple stuff so then they know hey, it's actually okay to leave my pet because I have all this really cool enrichment for them to do. I'm in communication. So again, back to that point, maybe start us investing in like VTSs in behavior or finding certifications for behavior. So, and not just in like behavior for fixing problems, but that educational portal, right? Because we know we don't have enough time as veterinarians, but there are so many ways that we can actually start to impact this industry. Because I know for many of us, especially those of us that do behavior, like we're starting to see that industry move away from us, right? Like we have celebrity trainers kind of taking over. And in reality, there's such a need for it because again, that's one of our pain points. Like, and that's an area where we can really start expanding into, like talking about like how to find a good trainer. Like, I'm not saying go and become a trainer, but like, how do I find a good trainer? How do I set up a cat-friendly household? What do I do if I got another kitten and my cat doesn't like it, right? Those are all things that people are going to be diving into the internet for. And that's really where we need to start moving into is like, how do we start bringing ourselves just out of the clinic and into the spaces where they're looking for those resources, especially in those areas where, to your point, that doesn't really come up on an annual exam. Like we don't talk, I mean, we ask like, okay, the dog is painful or it seems like it's in a good mood today, but we don't actually dive into those areas either.
And I see so much opportunity there for team empowerment, for everybody getting involved, because that's something else that I've been talking a lot about or hearing a lot about in conversation is, because I keep going back to the timepiece and going, but I can't talk about all of this in this one appointment, and keep going back to, but it's not just us as doctors. We have amazing technicians and like you said, there's advanced certifications and things where we can add to that knowledge base and really bring ourselves out of the clinics, whether that in whatever form that is, but also, as an extension of this medicine, really empower our teams to educate owners as well. I'm curious, you said leaving a pet behind, and my mind immediately went to like the fur, the treat throwing and this kind of stuff. And I think about technology, and thinking about coming out of the clinic and the different ways that we can connect with pet owners throughout the year. And really my mind goes to like younger generations when I think technology and things along those lines. So I'm wondering, were there differences based on demographics with some of the results of the survey?
Yes, there were, in terms of both challenges and technology, interest in technology. So we, across the board, so in terms of challenges, Gen Z, people with multiple pets, people with pets with health issues, and people with older pets experienced the most challenges. We also saw across the bond strength there were differences. People with the strongest bonds tended to feel less challenges, but the challenges they felt them more deeply. So the emotional toll of leaving a pet behind, struggling with understanding their pet's healthcare needs. We saw that folks with weaker bonds just generally felt more challenges. So really, really fascinating in terms of just clearly like some of the challenges just had so much to do with impacting the bond. Across technology, Gen Z in particular is like, there are power users, and they indicated the most interest in technology. So I think on average, they already were using 3.6 tech tools. And that was in comparison, I think, to like 2.3 of the rest of the respondents. And they also indicated interest. So I think they said they'd be interested in using like another 5 on average. So like,
how do you set that up and make
I know.
My goodness.
But clearly there's a lot of variety in terms of what we can support, what we can do in terms of technology and what's out there of what they could utilize. So just fascinating stuff. I mean, I think it makes sense that like the challenges in terms of the people with pets that have an illness versus multiple pets, obviously they have more to juggle. And I mentioned the affordability stuff that, people of lower means tend to have more challenges. And so I think a lot of that was expected, so to speak. But, we just got to think about how, in light of all of this, how are we supporting these pet owners and their bonds?
Yeah, and I think something to think about too, and I think we already do this naturally. Like we're very compassionate about the pets and the owners who care for them. And again, I think it goes to meeting people where they are. So like again, if you have a senior client, and I say this really directly, like when you think about like technology, right? Like think of telehealth. Like every time you pick up a phone, every time you send a text message, like every time you send an email, you're doing some form of telecommunication. So for that generation that maybe isn't super tech savvy and doesn't have, 7,000 million applications on their phone, maybe these are the groups where we have more of those single contact points. So like you're saying, creating more strength in your clinic where maybe you have a customer service team who actually can do more of that informal education of like, here are some great resources, like when you look at things like what we offer at Chewy Health, like PetMD, we have a symptom checker, right? So helping them kind of navigate some simpler applications, or maybe they can use it on their home computer. And then when you think of the generation that is going to Google everything, instead of just saying, use this site or use this app, teach them what are good apps? How do I find a good app, right? People don't even know what the scientific method is. So they're not running around being like, this is the perfect science-made application I've ever had in my life. They're literally like, ooh, I like this one. It has a cat on it, and it tells me the resting heart rate of my cat. And I'm like, okay, cool.
I can see myself doing that
too. Right. And so you're like, cool, but like, what does that do actually for you? So I think as veterinary professionals, like really talking and educating about an application that does X, Y, and Z. So like, again, let's say we're introducing cats into a home, right? Like an application that can monitor and potentially see which cats are using the litter box and when. So maybe we can help set up a better cat-friendly home. So those introductions are better and you don't have to worry about leaving them, by themselves. Like you were talking about the cute little ones that like throw treats and stuff, like, helping them understand that like you can diminish separation anxiety by creating independent time by using applications like this. So again, instead of just saying this one is good and this one is bad, help them understand and utilize those applications based on the issues that they're seeing. So for health issues too, like there's a ton of great applications that help detect like urinary issues and a whole bunch of other things. But instead of just saying, oh, go and find some stuff, let's take the time to, I know it's like a broken record in here, like let's take the time to educate and tell them as vet professionals, like, this is how this could be so helpful, right? Like, again, when I do behavior, a lot of it is observation, right? Most of what we do is observation. Right. It's history. So why don't we start using these applications in a way that we can actually make things better for us? Because again, even those follow-ups could be done by our customer support team, right? Like, here's the data trends tracking for the weight loss in this cat because they've been seeing one of our technicians, and as vets a year later on that annual, we actually have tracking from an app. They've been meeting with our vet techs twice a month, and now we have a great way to have a quick conversation with them where they've already been on that journey for the entire year. So there's ways to integrate that into your clinic without it being a burden, but then also allowing those pet parents to explore and educate on those options for themselves.
And that's the kind of technology that they indicated being interested in. The highly bonded, the younger pet owners want technology to solve their challenges related to finding, affording, managing veterinary care, understanding their pet's healthcare needs, but also the connection, right? The proximity to their pets too, the types of the treat throwing, virtual treat throwing, whatever.
Yeah. The fun ones.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really cool fun ones.
And I think, from our other survey, like we know that pet owners trust veterinarians. They want to hear from their veterinarians about reliable resources and information. Like, I don't know if it's just, like it's something that maybe is underappreciated, like how much a pet owner highly regards a veterinarian and their practice, right? They're trusted resources for information about pet care. And so like embody that and, don't be shy about providing some advice and some resources for folks.
I mean, and I'm hearing recurring themes, like you said, it's like a broken record. It's not just this conversation. These are themes that are coming up over and over and over again in multiple conversations of, pet owners. They want more time. They want more information. We need to be doing as good of a job as we possibly can with education and communication. And we can't do that as doctors. We need the entire team to get involved. And now it sounds like what I'm hearing is we need the team. We need to also lean into our resources because the clients are going to find the resources. So we need to point to the good ones, which is something we've been saying for a long time of, clients are going to go on the internet. So point to trusted sites. I always tell clients, like, if you have been on the internet trying to research pet nutrition, I'm so sorry. Sit down. Let's have a conversation because you're probably more confused than when you started. I know I would be. And as much as I see these presenting challenges, many challenges, they equal opportunity where we can grow. And I was just talking to someone earlier about how this is the beautiful thing about VMX. We have all these different conversations with people. there's been such an advancement. We were talking about in veterinary medicine how it's just accelerated and changed so quickly, and we're playing catch up a little bit. But also just in terms of technology, when we're talking about these applications, these touch points, these means of communication. I mean, Tiffany, you said we're going to Google something. I was like, I don't think they Google things anymore.
No, it's all like an app now.
Right,
like, I know that like so dated us. Here we go again, talking about how old we are. I just did it. Oh man.
But I mean, it wasn't like. Googling things doesn't seem like something that should be dated, but it is. It's all moving so quickly. And I think it just speaks to the need of the industry to do our best to try to keep up and points to why this research is really important. So I guess I'll ask really directly, we've kind of circled around this, but how can we do better with communication?
Yeah. I would love to take that one. And so I think this is really important because, I talk to a lot of veterinary professionals, and I think for many of us, like it's a division, right? Like there are some veterinarians who are just wonderful, what I like to call people-y people. Like we got into this industry because we love helping people, and we use pets as a way to help them become better for whatever that is, better pet parents, better healthcare for themselves, right? When you look at like a lot of the great studies that have come out for the human animal bond, like we think about that stuff. And then there are some of us who are like, we want to help pets and we want to do better for pets. And that communication element can be draining, right? Can be very difficult.
Yeah.
And so I think for us, again, like utilizing your full team to their advantage, right? You said it best. You said they want to talk to their veterinarian. But there's an entire team that works there, right?
Yes.
There could be an entire technology scheme, right? So I mentioned like PetMD, for example, and I'm gonna say that through Chewy Health. Like again, like if you don't have the support staff, like find reliable resources that have symptom checkers. So if you don't have a front desk staff who can answer phone calls, then let's find a way that these generational, depending what they are, can have access to it. So maybe you do have like a running thing about nutrition is like, hey, January is blah, blah month. And this is like a way you can utilize this. And so when we think about communication, it's not just about like changing our style of communication. It's about being open to people asking questions. Mm-hmm. And I think it starts right there, right? As vets, we love to run into a room and say, oh my God, okay, so the technician told me everything that's going on. And right now you're thinking about a heart problem, but really the coughing could be anything, and we just start unloading versus like, hey, how's it going? Tell me something awesome about your pet today, right? And then let them say, I've been really scared to ask this because they do. They want to value our time
right.
And they don't want to ask questions. They're going to run home and look that up somewhere else. But like, I want to know why my cat's chasing their tail. Oh my gosh, I would love to talk to you about that. Or let me find a support staff because I know this is like a 40-minute conversation about behavioral enrichment that I may not have time for. So let me grab one of my amazing technicians who actually does this all the time. And like, trust me, like they probably know more about this topic than I do at this point. So I'd love for you to integrate. And the best part is they do follow-ups, right? So again, coming back to that communication and molding technology together, right? Like having 3 different ways to communicate with pet parents. So when you think about in person, put that one on a shelf and then think like, what are 3 other ways that I'm doing this, right? Like, do I have some virtual resources that I can send them? Am I using like any kind of like telehealth options where like maybe they can just speak to a technician? So when they leave that visit, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to my staff. My team is very knowledgeable in lots of different areas. So if you have questions outside of this annual exam, especially around behavior, nutrition, dentistry, do that. And then to your point, give them reputable resources and give them lots of different ones. And also don't forget to teach them how to find them on their own. So when they come across some of those more suspicious sites, they're going to say, Doc kind of told me that this could be weird and that I should probably do my research. Because remember, pet parents aren't going online putting in like, I think my dog has canine parvovirus because that's what we think as doctors. They're going online and saying, why is my dog not feeling well? Do I need to change its diet? So we have to start changing the landscape of I don't want to say allowing other groups to fit in, but reminding them that we're more like a hub where you come to us whenever you have questions and we're going to give you those resources and we're going to help you find dependable and reliable like groups that can help you build that trust with your clients.
Yeah. And Dr. Tiffany said it from the survey, going back to the data.
That's what we do. We rely on the data.
The adding ways to connect to your clients outside of the exam room boost satisfaction. I mean, we saw that about, I think it was like 92% of the respondents are satisfied with their veterinarian, but only like 36% were extremely satisfied. So like there's some work that we could do. But that adding other ways to communicate, whether it's texting, an app, what you name it, telehealth, that can really improve them feeling connected to the veterinarian, them feeling like their needs have been met, and understanding, helping them understand their pet's healthcare needs and helping them with their challenges that they're facing and improving their bonds. So, just to reinforce the point, like just that's what pet owners want. They want to they want to feel connected to their practice beyond the exam room.
I love all of that. Tiffany, I love what you said about approaching the practice, the clinic, like a hub, to say, and kind of changing that expectation, because, it's with all of the information and the questions and the limited time that we have, it's not necessarily realistic to answer questions with all of the information that we have now and all the detail we want to get into when we're answering those questions every single time. The other thing that I'm hearing with some of what you're saying is employee retention. We're talking about empowerment and team empowerment and people being able to lean into their roles. And I think that probably also enhances client loyalty and trust when they're seeing the same faces. And if we can create retention, then everybody's winning. Yeah,
and I think too, like, be creative. Like, many of us are more than just veterinarians, and like, don't be afraid to pilot something. So like, if you or someone on your team is like, hey, I would really love to try this, just because it hasn't been done before, or it isn't something that maybe is routinely like done, don't be afraid to try it. So again, like, to your point, if you are like, we've talked very much like a broken record at this point, but like, if you have someone on your team who maybe is very passionate about senior pets, and you're seeing a lot of senior pets, like, maybe that's an opportunity for them, like, find ways that they can make that outlet creative. So even if you don't have all those resources, right? Like, say you're a smaller location, or maybe you're a nonprofit, or you're community medicine, like, find creative ways that you can integrate technology and communication. So just because it's not there doesn't mean that you have to wait to do it. And I think that's a big thing, is like, people want to talk to us. So find ways to do it. And I think that, I know it sounds like really metaphorical and theoretical, like, find ways to make a difference. Find ways, be creative. But I think like that's the thing. Because when we think about technology, I think everyone's brain goes to, oh my God, one more thing I got to worry about. One more thing I have to do. One more email I have to check. So what is something that's easy for you? Right? Like, so maybe it is setting up a text message service with your vet techs. Maybe it is doing Zoom calls with your techs or your assistants, even, where they can come in and have like an office hours where, it's like a Saturday afternoon puppy socialization course where we also do vaccination, right? Like, think of really creative things that you can do that can impact how pet parents interact with their pets. Because remember, you don't have to dump every single piece of information. Maybe you just soundbite, right? Like, March is, dental month. And I know it's not, it's February, but like, I'm changing it now, being creative. March is now dentistry month forever. But maybe those are like sound bites where like your staff will be able to answer questions you have about dentistry or dental health or, bad breath, and like, lean into social media and customer service and marketing. Like, how can I make it where people can interact and use technology to kind of be a part of a bigger picture? So I think that's also something, because, I think a lot of us get stuck in the ways of how we've been doing it for so long that we think like, oh my God, one more thing I have to add into my life. And, think of ways that are creatively good for you and your practice, and like, try it out, pilot it, see how it goes.
You gave some really good examples there because
you mean the dentistry month being in March? I thought that was a really good idea.
I loved it when you said it. You leaned into it. You were like,
I'm gonna own
this is me being creative. I'm like, that's the way to do it. Is yes, now it's in March. But you're exactly right. Like, that's right where my brain went. I'm not good with technology. I get overwhelmed very easily. I'm the person who would find the one with the cool picture of the cat that is the app that's not useful at all, but it makes me happy because it's got a cute picture on it. And so that is how I feel when I hear incorporate technology and these different ways of communicating. And I love the high level, like, be creative and find a way to make a difference. And you did give some examples there. Can I ask, I guess both of you, can you expand on different ways where, specifically when it comes to technology, because I think whether, even with empowering our teams to have these conversations, we're going to have to lean into technology to have these interactions. So for someone like me who, yes, has that reaction and goes, ugh, Zoom, like, how do I share my screen? I don't know. You think I'm kidding? And, how do we lean into technology?
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of it comes from we always want to learn, right? And I know that is pretty much how our industry is. We're always wanting to learn new stuff. So you don't have to do all of it, right? Like, so if you want to outsource it, like if you're extreme anti-technology and you're like, I just can't do this, like when you think about like teletriage or tele-advice, right? Like it doesn't have to be you. So someone in your practice could do it. Maybe your practice manager has a passion for education, right? So maybe it's more about teaching about, customer service or just like having that delightful check-in with someone, or making it as simple as just like having resources that they can go to that are technology based, right? So again, talking about those apps or doing some minor research for yourself and saying like, these are the ones that I find most comfortable. And again, leaning into your staff, like let your staff help you, right? Like you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. If you are not that technology driven, then ask your team and say like, hey, like applications, like I would love to have an application that does blah, blah, blah. And I guarantee you someone on your team is either going to say, that's a pipe dream, you're crazy. Or they're going to say, oh my gosh, have you seen this? I can show you how to use it. Or I'd happily, work this into our daily protocol where I can train our team to do it. And if you'd like to learn, we can. So I think, again, it's just like creating a space where everyone can be collaborative. Like, I don't think just one person has to be that space builder. And I think that's a really important aspect of like what I'm trying to get across is like, as veterinarians, we have a big burden to do everything. And I think like this is a great opportunity where we know pet parents want to talk to us. So start teaching them the value of everybody that's around them, because every single contact in that building is important to a pet parent.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be perfect. No. You can start with baby steps. And I think it's just responding, and like you said, like designate a young person on your staff. We know that the Gen Zs, they're all over the technology. So just from the survey, like they just outperformed in terms of what they use and what they're interested in, their intention to use. So again, I just think, there's just a number of ways to approach it. It doesn't have to immediately all work. But again,
or have one of them, like have that be like a little project for them.
I think
like say, look,
that,
go
right? It's empowering.
And find apps that track urinary things. Give me like your survey, maybe send them to a conference.
I was going to say, we're here.
Send them to a conference.
Like, say, I need you to
send them
this
to a
out
conference and then come back and teach us what you learned, because that also empowers them, because there they are sitting in front of doctors and practice managers. And they're like, I'm the person you hired to answer the phones, but I actually know a lot about tech.
Yeah,
and then
I'm
teach
like,
them.
I have no idea what you're talking about up there.
Right.
As, I'm sitting there going, you know way more about this
than I do. So then when they
do.
teach you stuff, you're like, that's great, but that probably wouldn't be utilized by me. So then you're teaching them too about the wonders of veterinary medicine and potentially retaining them, because that might build their future even brighter, where they just started out answering phones and now they're like, I love this industry. There's so many opportunities where it's a collaborative environment instead of, I work at a place where it doesn't matter what I say. So that's what I was saying, like be creative and allow those voices to be heard, because you're right. Like that young person might be your greatest tool to help bridge the gap between, including not just apps, but social media. Like you want to talk about, I'm terrible at social media. Like I don't even know what half the things are or what they do or what the colors are. If you asked me like which icon did what.
I'm not on the TikToks.
Not on the TikTok. See, is it even plural? I don't even know if it's plural.
I'm also not on the TikToks. Like, yeah.
Good, now we need somebody to oversight this. Make sure there's like a caption on the bottom that says,
that's going to be the title. I'm not on the TikToks.
But yeah, to your point too, it's, embracing technology can also mean providing pet owners with resources in the home, other things that they can do themselves. So I think, and that's, again, you can rely on the younger person to do that. But, it's going to be a learning experience, I think, for us all. But it doesn't have to be that the vet's office is, your practice is the one that's, the one that's tech forward completely. It can also be from, here's a couple things you might want to consider doing at home or looking into yourself. So I don't think it necessarily has to just be, it can be holistic in that sense.
It doesn't have to be like an interface.
You can still embrace technology by having some suggestions in that resource.
Yeah. And remember too, like the opposite, we do have pet parents that don't embrace technology. Right. So also be cautious and cognizant of those pet owners who come to your clinic who might not. And who might not want to have a subscription to an email or 47 emails or even know how to check their emails or even have a computer. So also think about, okay, when we have this, how do we meet people where they are and how do we embrace things that they're more comfortable using? Because I think that's also the important point too, is we're all like running to technology and being like, this is great and let's bring everybody into it. But we also have to make sure as we move into technology, are we making sure that we're making everything accessible?
Yeah. And we did also find from the research this like intention action gap. Like pet owners across the board, like, or especially the younger, more highly bonded pet owners, they like said that they would, like I said, they said they were intended to use a lot of different types of resources, technology, tools, like, a lot, like 4 or 5. But they weren't actually using them yet. So I think there is just this opportunity, right? You're not behind necessarily, I guess is my point, in starting those conversations with your staff and trying to get started in how we can leverage technology and be more tech forward.
Yeah. So thinking outside of the box, getting creative, and then, utilizing the entire team to get this going, and remembering that it doesn't have to run perfectly on what is Gen Z was like. They were using 3 and they were open to 5. We don't need 8 apps, running
exactly.
perfectly. 2 weeks after we make this decision, we can start one at a time and go slow, and also make sure that that pet owners have. It doesn't always have to be an interface with the clinic. Things that they can use at home, and then know that there still will be people out there who still appreciate those beautiful written documents that so much time and effort went into in the clinic. If we wanted to learn more about this, I mean, this has been a great conversation in terms of knowing where some of the shortfalls are, the opportunities are for us to deliver more of the service that the pet owners are looking for. If we want to learn more about, how we lean into this, what are some resources for veterinarians and veterinary professionals?
I'll start by saying the bond factor is a wonderful piece of work that we put together with Chewy from this data. It's just a downloadable resource that you can flip through that summarizes some of the findings, but also provides some actionable insights, kind of like what we were talking about, with a little bit more to each pain point. And it's a lovely designed piece that I highly suggest you checking out.
Yeah. And then I think for me, especially because I'm at Chewy Health, and everyone says, oh, you work at Chewy or you work at Chewy's. Adding those extra S's in. I'm like, the Mexican restaurant? I work at Chewy Health. I think actually going to our Chewy Health page, because that actually is our entire healthcare service side. So I know, like, when I say Chewy, everyone's like, you work for the box company? Those really cute boxes that come to my house, and I'm like, no, I work for the Chewy Health side. So like we're actually in this space where we are like extremely tech forward. We love to pilot and be creative. And so a lot of the services that we're doing are melding what pet parents are asking for. Like pet parents are coming on saying, I want this. And then our jobs are to find a way to integrate it into the veterinary community. And so like we have like I've mentioned PetMD, Connect with a Vet. We have so many fun pilot type, like we're just started as a pipe dream of like, that seems like a great idea. Let's try it, and constantly evolving it. So I highly recommend checking out Chewy Health. So when you go to chewy.com, Chewy Health, because we have a lot of those resources on there and a lot of those educational piece tools, again, linking to the bond factor, talking about like ways that we can actually create more actionable items. So we even have like sections of how you can take each of those sections and actually action them into your practice or into your, I don't want to say daily lives, but actioning them into like your lives and how you work on your profession as well.
Yeah. I love that as a jumping off point, because I think when we think of these seem like really big concepts. And both of you have done a wonderful job of helping to break them down and reiterating these really important factors that we're seeing over and over and over again with particularly education and communication. But it still feels a little overwhelming of, how we're making this transition and what this is going to look like, especially with things growing and changing so quickly in the technology space, in the veterinary space, just in the pet care space in general. So I love having that as a good jumping off place to go look and explore these different resources and kind of understand how it is that we're gonna tackle this shortfall that we're seeing, this opportunity that we're seeing to deliver better service to pet parents. So thank you both for joining me. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been a lot of fun. Any final thoughts you want to add?
No, thank you so much for having us. I think on behalf of HABRI, we're so grateful for our partnership with Chewy Health. Just adding data to the conversation. It's really, at the end of the day, all about better serving pet owners and the human-animal bond.
Yeah. And I thank you guys too, from me and from Chewy Health. We love doing these partnerships, especially where we can kind of collaborate, especially where pet parents are, because we know their voice is so, loud, and they just want to have a voice in the community. And so I think as as professionals, we want to make sure that we're balancing both. Like, are we supporting the veterinary community and at the same time helping to bridge that gap between where pet parents are and where veterinary professionals are kind of finding like some issues, and how can we create solutions to help them? So we appreciate being here. We love HABRI. So,
and we love
Lindsay.
BMX
That's
and
cool.
NABC too.
I think this is something maybe we're kind of feeling on, in practice and kind of sensing this. I'm going to keep calling it an opportunity to provide this service that pet parents are wanting. So I love this conversation where we have put data behind it and really spelled this out a little more clearly and talked about actionable solutions where we can start to deliver on what people are asking for. So thank you both for joining me.
Thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Cassie.
All right, Dr. T, Lindsay, thank you so much. I had such a good time sitting down with both of you. Want to say a big thank you to Chewy Health, big thank you to HABRI for making this episode possible. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you had some great takeaways from that. It's nice to talk about some of the interactions we're having in clinic with data to back it up and kind of understand what it is that pet owners are looking for. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast to help other veterinary professionals like you find this and other great content we try to put out there. For more episodes like this, click on the Education tab on the VetFolio website or find us wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts on this episode. I want to know what else you want to hear from us in the future, so feel free to reach out to me at dvm@vetfolio.com. You can also visit my Facebook page at Dr. Cassie DVM, and you can find me on Instagram at dr.cassie.dvm. And remember, if one animal is better off because of you today, it's a great day.